What's up, everybody? Welcome to TPI, the Total Podcast Idiot Show, where we cover everything and anything related to Hardwood, the only simulation that you need in your life. I am Total Podcast Idiot number one, Robert, and that's Total Podcast Champion, Andrew. Total Podcast Champion. Yes, of course we need a new intro.
Yeah, that's right. I guess unfortunately we couldn't have a show right after the championship games on Thursday, just schedule wise, especially for me. Like this week was really tough, but we're going to bring to you a lot of content today, particularly celebrating my championship.
Has that new championship fade, like, has it faded away yet, that new championship feeling?
In some ways, yes, but in other ways, no. Just like looking at my history, obviously it hasn't faded. I see those trophies, that word champion. But I'm also like well aware of the challenge ahead in D1 now. The Dominican hasn't been D1 since well before I got there. And it's going to be tough, like especially looking at our conference, and we'll go over this today, especially for an LL4 league. It's a really strong conference, like not really strong, but it looks pretty good, especially like at the top. Jacksonville's like not even higher than Dominican's like second in the conference, 13th overall in D1 TPI. And there's other good squads in there: Kansas, Clayton State, Lipscomb, all our Discord friends. But yeah, and in other ways, it's new because obviously I got like 42 extra prestige, which is double the prestige that I had before that. So that's a lot more power in recruiting. Just jumping from D2 to D1 helps. I jumped from where I was at low with the 5-star guy who's now a junior. I jumped on him when he was a freshman, the 15-pot 5-star, number one in his class still. Maybe he won't be next flip. Brian Hoffmeister, I was at low plus, I think I showed that. And now I jumped to like high, somewhere in the high range. I mean, I won't disclose that just yet because I'm in a battle with Cal State LA for him. So, can't give too much away. But, the flip and all the prestige and everything definitely helped with that. I think that's obvious. So I don't think I'm like spoiling anything by saying that. But yeah, it's a good feeling. Let me tell you. Oh, the other reason why we couldn't record last week, though, oh my God, the amount of time I would spend game planning. like after work, and then I get dinner, I try to get a run in or something. Like I would just spend the rest of my night game playing. And I'm actually not kidding. Like
it paid off.
Like I would go through the games of my opponents, especially games that they played against multiple teams, and especially games they lost multiple times games they played one team multiple times, in games they lost multiple games to one team. And I looked at like tactics, I mean, as far as I can tell, as not that team, and see how they changed or how they didn't change. Obviously my normal thing, like looking at minutes patterns, where guys are playing, where guys are taking shots from. I did a lot of research there, but yeah, I mean, it paid off. So I'm happy. I'm very happy.
It paid off. You are the D2 tournament champion. And I think we have something very specific that you'd like to share with the community to commemorate your championship.
Oh yeah. All right, let me share my screen.
The time has come.
Yeah, so we're gonna raise our banner right now. So I made a short video.
Do it.
Running onto the floor to hang the banner for your 2018 Division II National Champions are the members of the Dominican University of California Penguins.
Can you play it again? Can you play it again and I'll mute myself? Because I don't know if the volume's going to come through completely.
Sure. All right, here we go.
Running onto the floor to hang the banner for your 2018 Division II National Champions are the members of the Dominican University of California Penguins.
It's so much cheesier than I expected.
I mean, with a little Photoshop, a little work in Illustrator, I just put all that together.
Oh, that's pretty great.
Yeah, that second picture is actually like a Lakers championship thing, technically. But
I was gonna say it looked really familiar. I was trying to figure out where you found that graphic from. It looked really familiar.
Yeah, it was a 2021.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I just did some Photoshop and Illustrator shenanigans. And
I'm surprised you didn't find a way to have like your little dudes like pulling up the banner to like the top rafters or something.
So if I had like the animation skills, I guess I could have done that, but I don't know, it would have been hard. I wanted those little icons of the players like running around or something. And then like, like a ring or something. And yeah, the banners, yeah. But yeah, I didn't want to spend like 2 days on it type of thing.
Yeah, completely understandable. I have no experience with it, so I don't even know how much time goes into creating a video like you made.
Yeah, I mean, I spent like an hour on it or something. But yeah, that's enough of like, interviewing me. We don't care too much about that.
Hey, it's our show. You won a championship. We can talk about your championship. It's our show.
That's true. But, let's talk about the other participants in the Final Four, the champions in our brackets, right? So
let's do it.
What happened? Wait, the tournament tab is gone, Rob.
Yeah, but we could still use like challenge, or we could look at the champions page.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
just share the champions page.
Okay, we're very bad at using this website, obviously. Does it show Final Fours? I don't think it shows.
No, it doesn't, but I'll look at the challenge and tell you who was in the Final Four.
Okay, so I'm going to start in D3. And, we talked about Hawaii all season long. And they won. I mean, they had the best player, Elmore Kane. He's still there. And I mean, I don't know exactly what he did in the Final Four and the championship, but I assume he did pretty well. Jesus, they won't beat someone that badly.
Yeah.
Just looking at the Final Four against Kentucky Wesleyan here. I mean, Elmore Kane, he didn't even do super well. I mean, it was this guy, Bakke, 37 points.
Holy shit.
Whoa. And I know when we talked about Hawaii, we highlighted a couple other guys who are good. I thought it was Sutton, and Sutton had a good game too. Yeah, let's see who Bakke is, right? Lawrence Bakke. Well, 158. Richard Jr. 13 pot. I mean, he's real good. He's definitely really good.
Yeah, Hawaii was a really solid team.
Yeah,
all the way around.
Definitely. And then in the championship against Brockport here, Elmore Kane, player of the game. Just another solid game. 4 steals, 8 rebounds, 18 points. Bakke again, 24 points here. I mean, maybe this guy was like the best player on Hawaii all along.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Or it's like all the defensive attention is going towards Kane, and rightfully so. I mean, he was their leading scorer all season, and that just allowed Bakke to hit a bunch of threes, to shoot pretty well. Yeah.
I mean, it just goes to show you how deep they were for the D3 tournament.
For sure, yeah. And we've said the top talent will win out. I guess they're like same team.
I didn't realize it. Yeah, it's not their same team. So I was like, wait a second, that doesn't look right. But then
yeah. I was like, this is good. I mean, these two guys are good, but like, I don't know. Then it drops to 130. Like, hey, I mean, good luck in D2 this year.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Kane will be good, but it's like the rest, the bigs aren't super great. I mean, Sutton graduated, Byers, so they're starting like point guard, center, and power forward all graduated. It looks like. Yeah, so they lose a lot. They definitely lose a lot.
Winning a championship is a good way to send them off.
For sure, yeah. So congratulations to Gasuton. and Hawaii on winning.
Yeah, and congratulations
who else do we have
to
to?
well, SUNY Brockport. That was what I was just going to mention right now. President Mobby for runner-up. That's, runner-up is no small task either.
Definitely.
And then shout out to Wilkes and Kentucky Wesleyan. They were the other two schools that made the Final Four.
All right, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to D2. We talked about this. Congrats, to that guy, that person, that team. I mean, to talk about a little bit about my team more in depth as we did with Hawaii, I graduate one player. He was the starting center, but we replaced him with a guy who was redshirting who's probably better. And then, but we returned 4 starters. I think we'll be pretty good. Hopefully we can promote again. We'll see though. But yeah, I want to give props to my opponent, Old Dominion in Chinoa. I mean, I messaged him this, I messaged them this when they messaged me to congratulate me. They're super confusing to plan against. And like, I think game planning wise, like they might be one of the best presidents I've come across so far. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty very good presidents up in higher levels that I haven't faced, especially with so much on the line. But Old Dominion, I mean, they would press 30% of the time. Sometimes they would press 10%. They'd play man 0% one game I saw, but then man up like 40, 50% sometimes. I was so confused what they were going to do against me, really. And like I said, minutes patterns they weren't crazy, but they had some like freshman guy, Harley McLaughlin, who would play like small forward. He started small forward, but he started at shooting guard, and it was very confusing. I ripped my hair out trying to figure out what they were going to do. But congrats to them on being runner-up. It was a tough game, close game too.
Sort of a long time coming for them. I just want to take a peek at their history. And that president's been around since the 2012 season for Old Dominion.
Oh, really?
And he took over, similar to our career arcs with this game. He took over a team that was terrible. They went 1-40 that first season with a 98 TPI.
I mean, the season before that, they were 0-40.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man. But the TPI was finishing TPI of 79.7. Oh,
yeah, that is horrendous. But obviously, like, has built the team over time, and this is the payoff. He made it all the way to the championship game. So no shame in finishing second. That's like an amazing run for this team. So
for sure, yeah. And then to talk about the Final Four, I can talk about my opponent at least some. That would be Maddie Soda.
Yeah,
Maddie Soda and Minnesota State. When I was running Michigan Tech, they took two guys that I was on, Jeff Pollock and Deion Joyner, and now they're like some of his best players. I mean, on Joyner, I kind of let him have him, but I mean, maybe I wouldn't have won still. I'm sure it was like a 50-50 toss up. But they were really good because they had like 2 7-footers. And then 2 other guys were like 6'9". Joyner, obviously super good. As a 13-pot 5-star, who's like 160 as a junior now. He was a sophomore. And they were really good. It was a double OT game that I like barely won by the skin of my teeth. I was so nervous for that game.
That was pretty wild. They were my first round matchup with Oswego. And our matchup was pretty close as well. It was like 75-72. So I know exactly what you mean. It's kind of painstaking, but
dude,
I always felt like this team was way too damn talented to be, what were they, 11 seed? Way too talented to be an 11 seed.
Yeah, they were an 11 seed. They actually didn't even promote out of their conference because they were like 4th or something.
Yeah.
So also, they're going to be like one of the top teams in D2 next year or this upcoming season.
In the round of 32, after they beat me by 3, they beat Ferrum 110-50.
A 60-point win. Wow.
So yeah.
No, they played they were really good. They were very, very good. And I think they won like an Elite 8 game, I think. with like 2 injuries to like two starters, and I was like, oh my god. And then they returned against me. I was like, oh my god, now I'm gonna be screwed.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. So shout out for sure to Minnesota State.
And who was the other Final Four team?
High Point.
High Point. Yeah, man. I mean, they were in that conference of death, right? The V8 with San Diego, and then they beat San Diego in the second round, and I was like, what?
Yep.
That was crazy.
None of us saw that coming for sure.
Yeah. And then they made it all the way to the Final Four. So, congrats to them.
Yeah, it was weird because obviously you were a 1 seed. Old
Mm-hmm.
Dominion was an 8 seed. High Point was a 9 seed, and Minnesota State was an 11 seed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a really diverse Final Four, if you say.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about how unpredictable these are, and that kind of speaks to it. I mean, I obviously in the end, yes, a 1 seed won. Same with Hawaii. I think either they were 1 or 2.
Hawaii was a 1, yeah.
But like, just throughout the rest of the bracket, like very much chaos. I don't know. It was a lot. Who's the president of High Point again?
Solace 36.
Yeah. So congrats to Solace 36.
Yeah. Congrats, man.
All right, then let's get on to D1 national tournament. And here, we talk about chaos. Here's some chaos. A 9 seed wins the Evansville Purple Aces and President Gulf Hogan.
Yeah, I mean, Evansville had a pretty rough path too to make it all the way to the championship game and then beat Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, they win by 3 against USC here. Then a 10-point win against Grand Valley State. Then a 4, right? Florida Gulf Coast was like a 4 seed, right?
And they were ranked at some point this season.
Yeah, and so then they won by 3 here. They beat Western Michigan by a decent amount though. But then they played Louisville, who was like a 2 seed, I think.
Yeah.
And they only won by 7. Woo. And then they beat number 2 Tennessee. They were 2 seed by 1 point. Oh my gosh.
Looking back at this game log, oh my God, it was wild. Like if I'm either Evansville or Tennessee and I look back at that game log, it's just like, holy shit, it could have come down to a single possession.
Yeah. I mean, look what Evansville did. I don't know if they did this like all season or not, but like 3 of their guys played 40 minutes. And this guy only played 29 because he had 5 fouls. And this guy only played 34 because he had 5 fouls. So maybe that was part of the plan. I don't really know. It wasn't like a last second shot buzzer beater type of situation, at least. So, I mean, you can't get like super upset then, I guess, if you're Tennessee.
It just looks like it was like a 1 possession game for the final like 10 minutes,
Yeah. I mean, they haven't played their guys 40 minutes all season type of thing. Like these aren't crazy high numbers, but yeah.
If fatigue doesn't really affect the in game enough, right? To the point where like you could play a guy 40 minutes in game and his performance is not going to matter so much. If it's a championship game, then if he gets injured, who cares?
Yeah, that is kind of how I treated my matchup. I didn't play them like 40 minutes, but I did push them to like 33 or so. Kind of with that thought. Because I mean, for me, normally I play my guys to like light. If they get to moderate, like that's on them.
That's on them.
Yeah, but usually I just push them to light. But like, yeah, in the last game of the season, or if they're not going to play for a while, basically, push them to heavy. But I have to keep in mind a little bit of like the effect of fatigue potentially rearing its head. I know we've talked about it maybe not being as big of a deal, but I don't know. I'm still a little iffy on it overall.
Just the realization that maybe it's not as significant of a factor of performance than we thought it would be, sort of. Yeah. And so I think he was just hedging his bets and saying, F it, I'm just going to play my best players 40 minutes and see what happens.
Sure. But I mean, I think it's like, I feel like it's kind of random on if it can affect. And I don't want to like test that necessarily.
Sure. Yeah. We don't really have like a clear answer either way at this point.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, congrats to Tennessee and TPS 2.0. I know they're going to be really good this season, though. I mean, they've returned their big man, Nathaniel Hughes. they're just whole team is like built around him pretty much. I mean, Michael Anthony's a solid player at point guard here. Yeah, I mean they'll be pretty good. Dylan Lane and Jeff Gallagher look like solid big man. Not even depth. I mean, those guys should be
Doug Larson.
Doug Larson looks. Oh wow, redshirt sophomore. Sheesh.
Yeah. Here's another example of a president that believes in redshirting every season, no matter what.
Yeah.
No matter who you are. So
true. Yeah. I mean, look at this size of 6'11", 6'10",
yeah.
6'9", 6'8", 6'11" up here, obviously.
Look at the guys he brought in.
6'11", yeah, 6'4", 5'9".
Yeah, that's what I was referring to.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, all three should be redshirted though, probably. So, but yeah, you're right. This is a team that well built, historically very consistent. Yeah. So, but congrats to them.
Yeah.
And then who else was in the Final Four?
Our other two Final Four teams were Louisville and President Brian Matthews, and then Portland and President Yuri 84. Oh
wow, Portland, yeah. So I mean, when I was looking at the D1 rankings for TPI, and you know we'll be doing this in a bit. Portland's number 6, and obviously you know they have Richard Love, who's a 191 junior.
True junior.
Yeah, true junior. And, you know, they have some solid players. Oh, I'm just on their roster anyways already because they're the last team I looked at.
Richard Love had a +4 in his last dev update. And it's like the four of the sexiest categories you could have at the same time. Like just click.
Really? Wow. Oh.
Like, yeah. Geez, like, come on.
Jesus. Yeah. Good player. He's a good player.
Yeah.
You know, and Irvin looks like the point guard, I guess. I mean, maybe McAllister, or who would you play here? I think I'd start Irvin. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's 19 in passing. I don't know why you'd ever want to pass that up.
I think the big one was the IQ for me too.
Right. Yeah. So IQ passing. I mean, so click into Irvin's profile. Okay. These are just numbers, so it kind of gets a little bit. But when you see this, that top right corner is always going to be just your point guard stats.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 19 passing, 18 ball handling, 18 driving, 15 IQ, for sure. I think he's going to end up point guard.
Well, I think the other question was like the defense, though. The defense difference, obviously McAllister's favor. I mean, that's kind of it. I mean, potential-wise, McAllister's younger, so maybe you want to prioritize that development more. But, you know, Irvin definitely looks like the better player right now. Certainly.
Yeah. I'll be curious to see if he starts McAllister at shooting guard at all, or which way he's going to go with that. Because, I mean, is he going to start Lee Epps? It's a little bit down the line there.
Yeah. Lee Epps maybe doesn't look the strongest option. Yeah, that's a good question. Not sure.
Yeah,
that'd be interesting.
Maybe one of Forrest Bledsoe or Norm Calabrese ends up as like a small forward, and then you can put Justin Day at shooting guard or something, but still you're dropping off in terms of like total SI and skills from McAllister. So we'll have to see how he goes about it.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, Richard Love is great and Portland is an experienced owner, but you know, there's definitely some things to pick at with this roster, as we've talked about. So yeah, it will be interesting. Okay. And what else do we need to hit now?
The results of our challenge bracket predictions.
Yeah. So let's go to D1 and we have HU. I don't know who that is.
It's Bridger with Huntington.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Huntington U. Yeah.
Got it. So congrats to, oh yeah, that's right. He posted like, oh yeah, I clinched the win.
That's the only way I would have known. Yeah.
I mean, HU, obviously Huntington, but yeah, I mean, that could be a lot of schools too, I think, or even a name. So yeah, sorry, I noticed it's Punkska versus Birdcamp.
Yeah.
But yeah, congrats to Bridger and Huntington, and they like ran away with it pretty early. I know, because like no one picked the correct winner, which understandable. They were a 9 seed.
That's true. No one picked Evansville. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean Bridger was the only one to get any Final Four points, I think. On top of that, yeah. So
wow.
Yeesh, wow. I think that technically won it for them because that puts them no, they still would have won even if they didn't get these points.
Yeah.
Although maybe someone else would have gotten the points instead if like this result. So yeah, so I mean they had Tennessee as their runner-up, which not many people did apparently, and that was, I guess, the separator really.
It's pretty wild, the range of predictions here.
Yeah, no one else had Tennessee in the as their runner-up, at least. Some did have their Final Four. Oh, I had their men's for Final Four. Yeah, in the Final Four. Yeah, so congrats. And I mean, Tennessee's president did really well, pretty well. I mean, 67 seems kind of low. I mean, hey, who am I to talk? I got 57.
Well, relative to our last year, let me see who, because I won last year. Yeah, I won with a score of 116. So I guess this year is a little bit more difficult to predict.
For sure. Oh yeah, where were you on this one? I know where you are. I'm just rubbing it in.
I finished last.
Yep.
Hey, I went for chaos and it did not work in my favor.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's funny.
I finished last by a significant margin too. It's not like, I mean, like 4 points from the next is a solid amount of picks.
Yeah. I mean, you were just one pick like down from, I mean, second to last, but yeah. Yeah, so I mean, thanks to everyone who like participated. We had 29 participants. That's a great number. Yeah, so that's pretty good.
Certainly growing compared to our last one. So, I hope we can continue to see increased numbers year over year.
For sure. All right, let's move on to D2. And we had a team. I don't know who this is.
I don't either, if they need to claim themselves.
But congrats to them. A lot of teams picked Dominican, and that ended up coming true, even though I told everyone not to. But yeah, you finished third. Nice. Wyoming finished second. I finished fourth again.
I finished third by 1 point.
Oh wow, 101, 100. Yikes.
Yeah,
that's gotta hurt.
It does.
Well, you can't blame it on the last game. At least none of y'all can.
I would have won if Tulsa had completed the run and made the Final Four.
Oh yeah, that was the big one for you, huh?
Yeah. I somehow managed to get at least one crazy prediction right per season. Last year I had Slappy Pappy and Salisbury going deep, and they did. I didn't have them going all the way to the final, but I had them going deep. And then this year I was like, F it, I'm gonna pick Tulsa, and then Tulsa makes like an Elite Eight run. Like, what?
Yeah. Oh man. So yeah, that's D2 bracket, challenge bracket. Yeah. So I mean, we had 16, and obviously, like we expect more to be in D1. This was a good number for D2 participants for sure. So we're happy about that.
Yeah, I agree. I think people are probably just not really comfortable making predictions for, the division that they don't have a team in.
Understandable. But just do it like us and just pick random teams.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, D3. Congratulations, a very silent one in his prediction. And Hawaii, a few teams picked Hawaii, and they ended up being correct there. Yeah.
So, Hawaii's pretty dominant. So
Wyoming with another second place, and me with another fourth place. Congrats to me.
Did did Wyoming get second place in D2?
Yeah, they got second place in D2. They were second to last in D1. But
I was gonna say, yeah, because Wyoming was barely above me in D1. Yeah.
Where were you in this one? Do you know?
Just a few spots down.
Middle in the pack. You're 9.
Yeah, I picked UCI to beat Hawaii instead of Hawaii to beat UCI.
Gotcha.
So had I flipped those, I think I would have been pretty up there.
Yeah, definitely. Rust College. Oh no. I think they actually made it to the Sweet 16 though, so it wasn't the worst.
Did they? Let's see. Rust.
I think my Buena Vista pick, I think they lost in the first round. So that was the rough one.
Rust won 2 games. So yeah, Sweet 16.
Yeah. Way to go, Rust. Even though I had you in the Final Four.
You did it, Rust. You did it.
So yeah, I mean, good participation, good results. I hope everyone had fun. We'll do it again next time.
Yes, sir.
And we actually should get those up earlier because I won't be like traveling for work.
Yeah. So we should be able to give people much more time to get their predictions in before the tournament starts.
Yeah. All right. So that's that. And then what else do we have on the docket today? The meat of our program, right?
The meat and potatoes of our program, which I bet everyone could probably suspect what we're going to talk about. And it's predictions, not really predictions, but looking forward.
Looking forward. Yeah. So, here we just did it really quick. We have the top rated teams by TPI in every conference. And then we did the average TPI of those conferences over here. So I think we can share this on in the description, the link for it, just like we did with our last one. So people have access to it. And I mean, you can fill it in for these ones. Rob he just deleted, he only took the top teams, but for D3, if you're interested, I hid all of them. So you can like unhide them. I don't know if I'll give editing access to people, but
yeah.
I don't know, maybe people can still do that while in just view only. I'm not sure.
We can always, once we're done with it, we can always unhide and then just leave it in that status if anybody wants to pop into it.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see the top teams in every conference. So what interesting trends have you noticed?
So the first thing I noticed is my initial thought is always, well, Legends is probably the top average TPI conference in D1. And that's just a guess, just based on the fact that the best teams are there. But as we see, and they have an average TPI across that conference of 144.1, but we can see with Florida State here, the average TPI of that conference is 144.48, which is not significantly higher, but it's still higher.
Yeah, and I noticed something with that conference with 2.2, that conference, obviously it's really strong, but they have, sorry, that's the other one, 1, 4, 5, 10, 15, like that's really strong. And, I think anyone can tell based on this average TPI, but, it's also nice to see like exactly where those teams really fall. It's not like Florida State's the only team pulling them up, right? So it's a lot of teams. So, I mean, Florida State's the top team in all of D1 by TPI. Something I wanted to highlight is Bridger posted something like a preview in the forums about this conference because he's in this conference. Huntington is in this conference. So he provides some analysis much more in depth than what we can provide here because he's more invested in it. So he'll do the bigger research, the deeper research. So go check that out if you want to know more about these teams in 2.2,
Yeah. Another thing that popped out, okay, so we talk about these leagues here having like average TPIs 144.1, 144.4, and then 140 here, almost essentially 141. And then the rest of them, there's a pretty significant drop off, right? There's a couple here that are like 139, and those are going to be your stronger conferences. But I guess I was really surprised by this conference right here, having such a strong average TPI, and then SUNY Geneseo. Did we ever get this right? It's Geneseo.
I'm sure we have at some point.
Yeah. SUNY Geneseo in their conference here. So those are like some pretty strong conferences that's LL4, right? So
yeah. He's getting the hang of it, guys.
Shut up. I knew you were going to say something. And then finally, real quick, one more point. So like Augsburg's with 4.6 here, right? Their average TPI is 129, and Augsburg's sitting at 148. So they should like be able to run away with that conference, or at least a promotion from that conference pretty easily.
Yeah. I mean, they should do pretty well. Augsburg, right? They were a 1 seed in D2 tournament last year. So they definitely look like they should be pretty strong this year. I mean, look at Augsburg, DePaul with a W.
DePaul.
Damon, Northern Kentucky, then Ohio Dominican.
Then a lot of trash.
Then some not as strong teams, definitely. I mean, Colby was ranked for a while last year, but I don't think they returned that much
They must not. I mean, their TPIs 132.9, and we looked at their
Yeah.
roster last year and we're like, wow, that's pretty solid.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, Augsburg definitely looks like a pretty strong contender for at least promotion, if not winning that title. Maybe DePaul makes a run at them though. I don't know.
Yeah, so it's probably going to be those two at the top battling for it, and then pretty steep drop off for whoever's battling for third, it looks like.
Yeah. I mean, these three teams maybe for third, and then even then, like that's another big drop off for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, and then with our conference, so our conference is this one, 2.2 or 4.2. So you highlighted as strong. I agree. I think it's pretty strong. It looks like the strongest LL4 conference by TPI. I mean, Jacksonville, like I said, 7. I'm 13.
Where's Santa Clara?
not as high. You're pretty thin. You want to talk about it at all, or just gloss over it?
We can gloss over it.
Well,
we'll have time to revisit it at some point in the future.
Yeah. I just briefly, I know you have one good player, or one really good player. I mean, sorry, and then you have some like okay pieces, and then the big decision for you. And NAF actually posted this in his like WCC rivalry preview. I think he's spot on with it overall, or with your overall outlook. The question is, are you going to play your 2 4-star freshmen that you signed last season?
Oh yeah, they're playing.
So there it is, right there.
They're playing. I don't have a choice.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, even with them, you're kind of thin.
But without them, I'm admitting demotion.
Yeah, pretty much.
I don't think it's all that unreasonable to assume I could survive in this conference, given the fact that a couple, Slippery Rock's 114 and there's 6 TPI points ahead of me. That could be made up with game planning and all sort of other circumstances. So it's not out of the picture by any means.
Yeah, so, I mean, Slippery Rock is what's the team you need to hit? Like Alabama is the team you need to hit to
Alabama. Yeah.
So, just in general, this range, is it doable? I don't know. I haven't really looked at every team here super closely. Maybe I should, but yeah, Kansas, like I said, is really good. I remember looking at Minnesota Crookston and being very scared of them.
And Clayton State's really good too.
Clayton State's good. Yeah. Lipscomb is always really solid. So, this conference is going to be really tough. Yeah. Rhode Island, I'm sure, is good too. I mean, not to just pass over them.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah. So what other conferences stand out? I mean, this one, the 4.4.
Yeah, 4.4.
They look good, right?
They look really good. That's very similar to our conference.
Yeah, I mean, but interestingly, like their top team is 46. But
so it's not quite as top heavy, but there's a more even distribution, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So that's going to be an interesting fight. I mean, their worst team is at 132.4. That's very high. Wow.
Yeah, that's 132.4. You said that's their worst team.
Yeah.
The worst team in ours is 126.9 in Arkansas State. So that's, yeah.
So that's interesting. Colorado and Guillermo Cordero, and I think Holocron too. Just his second profile just took this team over. So
he snagged my freaking head coach.
Oh yeah.
Ricky within Gillespie, a second of me hiring him.
Man, people are crazy.
You get sniped. You literally got to be fast. It's quick trigger.
I was working, you guys. Jeez.
I know it's a mad dash, dude. Honestly.
Yeah. Who else here? I mean, North Carolina. I don't know. I mean, I thought they were pretty good. I'm not sure.
I don't know anything about North Carolina.
But yeah, I'm sure we'll go over this conference more as a whole. But right now, it's hard to pick out a standout team just because it's so clumped,
Yeah, it definitely is.
That's just what we say when we don't know what we're talking about. You want to look at 3.4 actually? I mean, because that's a very high, pretty high, like TPI, especially for LL3. I mean, you see these 136, 135, 135, then almost 140.
Yeah, let's do it.
So let's look at that.
It's the highest LL3 conference in terms of average TPI. So
yeah, so Pacific, Crown, Miami signed like a 4-star or 5-star last year, I think. Jesus,
Michigan
are
Tech.
you kidding me?
Okay.
I think this is almost the end of their run, though. I mean,
yeah, because I think Ron Ritter is a senior this year, right?
Ritter and Campbell are seniors. I mean, Spears is still there as a junior. I mean, who's the starting center though? Are they going to move Ritter? Is Kruger going to start? Is Rivers finally going to get to play?
Yeah, I don't know.
But even though he's gotten like no playing time these past 2 seasons, even though the plan was for him to get playing time,
he also hasn't redshirted. So
yeah, they don't redshirt apparently. Everyone, if you don't know where the redshirt button is, guys, okay. Here, you see, you click it, right? Red shirt, and then these are all grayed out because they can't redshirt these players, whether they're walk-ons or they've already redshirted, or if they've played 5 games. You can click this button, right? So those are the redshirt buttons. Got it? Okay.
yes. And make sure that if you're going to play your guys your 5 games when they're redshirting, you take it off, but reapply it.
Yeah.
Don't make that mistake.
Yeah.
And completely take them off the depth chart. Okay. Redshirting FAQ done.
Seriously. Yeah, we should do another FAQ, like basically an FAQ podcast, huh?
Good, yeah.
What other conferences? Are we done with D1, you think? I mean, obviously, like all these teams are good, right? Mississippi, they're ranked number 1. We always talk about them. Jeff White, Brooke Laters is still somehow there. I thought he was a senior like 2 years ago, to be honest. They got some other big guys. Frankie Cunningham as a guard, he's very good. Yeah, I mean, Florida State, they look really good. They have a 5'9" shooting guard who I think he's shooting guard, who's a 19 perimeter defender.
5'9", and he's a 19 perimeter defender. Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
I cannot believe Jeff White is a 192.
Yeah,
as a true junior.
Wow, Jesus. Yeah, seriously, huh? Yeah, Waters, this guy, 5'9" here, 19 PD. Yep.
Oh, he's almost like Calvert.
Yeah, Richard Love here, UTA at number 3, Nova at 8, Pacific and Temple, Asheville. We talked about Jacksonville. Yep. So I don't know. D1 looking interesting.
Let's take a quick peek at 4.3 real quick, if you don't mind.
Sure. Yeah, I don't mind. So yeah, I mean, with Asheville and Dayton and Washington, WashU here, K. Henry's team, U with Oswego. So 4 teams in the top 30. Then North Carolina A&T, me. So 6 teams in the top 45. It looks like decent.
It's a really well-rounded conference, I'd say. There's obviously some bad teams at the bottom and whatnot, but like
yeah. I think what's dragging us down is these 3 teams under 120.
Right. 220. Oh, 120 TPI. My bad.
Yeah, sorry. 120. Yeah, TPI. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. But even then, the TPI distribution is not like average TPI is not that far off from the conferences that we were just talking about being really strong. It's like 3 points off. Right.
Yeah. So I mean, but I think like if you even gave these teams like 120s or something, like still not good, or 125, like this conference might average to be like one of the best in all D1.
Yeah, I agree. Right. It's going to be a hell of a conference for us this season.
Yeah.
There's some really good squads there.
Yep. All right. Okay, so let's go over D2 pretty quickly. And does anything stand out? I mean, just stand immediately, like this conference here, 129 looks like the highest, right?
Yeah. I guess the first thing that comes to my mind when I look at this is the drastic difference in terms of average TPIs between D1, D2. And like, because we've had D2 conferences where we're like, damn, this is a really strong D2 conference, right? Multiple times, like we talked about our conference last year was pretty top heavy, but still pretty strong. but then when you actually like look at the numbers, and then you find like the lowest D1 conference is 129, and then most of the conferences here are falling below 129. It's just like there is as much of a talent drop off as we totally expected. I guess that's just the first thought that I have.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I'm initially scouting it, I'm just looking at like the top 6, 8, or whatever, you know, and I just kind of ignore those teams that are like, you know, sub 110, sub 120, whatever the benchmark really is.
Yeah.
You know, but those are the ones that really drag down the average too, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
but back to your point though. Back to your point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Looking at V14.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, looking at just like the top group or so, 7, 12, 18, then a bit of a drop off to 44, but still like solid 44, 49, 53, like all teams that could consider themselves in the tournament picture. You know, so yeah, they might be pretty good.
Yeah, it's a pretty solid conference.
Yeah. I know with, let's see, which one was it? It was UC San Diego's conference.
V8, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, we talked about V8 last season and how good it was. And, you know, only 3 teams out of that conference promoted. So like 5 strong teams are still in there. And so UC San Diego. So last year was San Diego. Now it's UC San Diego.
That's so true.
Yeah. Then so UC San Diego is number 1. I believe they're the only team with a TPI of 150 plus.
Baylor's number
Baylor.
2. Yeah. And they also have 150.4. They're identical.
Okay. So real life national champion Baylor feeling good in D2 here in Hardwood, huh?
Yeah.
High Point, a Final Four team, didn't promote, but they have no number 4 TPI coming into D2. So maybe they'll promote this time.
I imagine they're feeling good about their chances.
Yeah. And you can see Wisconsin, Illinois, Davenport, all, you know, strong teams. Weber State kind of on the outside, but, you know, definitely not a team to be taken lightly. Yeah. Ooh, Baylor, College of Charleston, Nazareth. I want to shout out Nazareth. You know, the president for them listens to us a lot. You know, they look like they're in a good promotion spot. Obviously, Baylor's going to be tough, but it'll help drag or, you know, raise the RPI of the conference as a whole. So, you know, Nazareth does well. Not only should they hopefully promote, but you know, maybe gets a good tournament run in there too. Tournament seed and tournament run.
Yeah, hopefully. We love when our listeners thrive. That's what we're all about.
Yeah, I don't think anyone else in this conference listens to us. So, I mean, we know who we're rooting for.
If they do, they haven't identified themselves yet.
That's right. Identify yourselves.
Ooh, Washington College, 84.5 TPI.
Hey.
My God.
Wow.
That's bad.
Is VCU in here, or are they D3?
VCU's D3.
Oh,
VCU's, okay. Yeah. But real quick, if we could take a peek at V15.
Sure. Yeah. How are they looking? Okay. 5 and 6.
So 5, 6, 35, and then just a drastic drop off.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so like 5 and 6, Elizabethtown and Wilkes is a team that made a Final Four last year, obviously. Both in the 145 range there for TPI. Eastern New Mexico's 137, and then DeSalle's, the 4th team, drops off to 127.
Yeah.
So that's like, if you're not one of those top 3 teams, it's a steep climb towards any towards competing at all.
Yeah. Something I wanted to point out in this in D2 is D16. So you have West Texas A&M, Texas A&M International, Texas Permian Basin, Texas A&M Kingsville. 5 teams from Texas. It's so funny.
That is actually really funny.
So that'll be fun. I don't know. You could write some good stories with that, you know, Texas rivalry or one of these other teams, you know, going through a road trip through Texas, having to play, you know, 4 of them or something like that.
The newly managerless Texas A&M Kingsville Javelinas.
Oh no, Bluebirds has
retired. Yes.
Okay. It's got to be the time for everybody.
He's moved on to birding.
This conference here, V2, I know there was a lot of chatter in the forum regarding their tournament success last year, because I think out of like the Sweet 16 teams, they had like 5 teams. Obviously Minnesota State made it to the Final Four. They look really strong though, 3 and 10, 26, 45, 50. Like that's pretty good.
Yeah. And I believe Long Beach has a pretty solid roster, if I remember correctly, because I know they've been in on some good recruiting battles. I don't know how many of them they've won.
Yeah, let's take a look.
Okay, so it's a little top heavy. Why
did I click that? Yeah, that's true. I mean, the 4-star person looks like a really good shooter. He's fast.
The 4-star person? Was the pun intended?
No. They have Nate Hall though. Right, this is the big man, I guess, right? And he's pretty good. He has the good stats and good ratings and the right stuff. He's just a sophomore, so he's not like fully developed yet though.
He's got a 7'7" wingspan.
Oh really? Damn.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember him talking about recruiting battles. I remember Long Beach State being on him and then debating whether or not I was going to try, but then not, and then sort of regretting it. It'd be nice to have a 7-footer with a 7'7" wingspan.
Yeah, for sure. So this is a team definitely looks good. I mean, they look like they have solid roster construction. I'm not entirely sure who plays power forward. Is it Bryson, I guess?
A little undersized, isn't he?
Hardy?
I clicked off the page.
Yeah. Or does McLean play? Does he start? I don't know. This is
he could do 2 7, well, not 7-footers, but 6'10" and 6'11 and a half side by side.
Yeah.
Comes down to his play style, I guess.
Or Rico Wall, even. I remember this guy. I was interested in him. I was like, he's not going to grow tall enough. All right. And then what else in D2? What else do you want to point out here?
D2. I think that's pretty much it. I think we covered a good majority of it. There's some weaker conferences, like the average TPI up here for Hendricks, like we said, 119.65. That's pretty weak. Mm-hmm. And then V1, 120. So there's some pretty weak D2 conferences.
Yeah.
Like 119.65 is like dipping into D3 range.
Right. Yeah.
And that's like not even top D3 conference range. That's like a couple of conferences down. So that's not good. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Let's just take a look at like the rosters, I guess, of UC San Diego and Baylor real quick, if we can.
Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
Gosh, my computer's so laggy, it looks like. We obviously Joyce looks like maybe a point guard. I mean, 6 IQ.
Yeah, that's a little rough.
This is not a high IQ team. Just looking at it. But Fontana is good. I know Cornette. I assume he's still starting, even though maybe he might not anymore if he's this far down on the depth chart. But it looks like he did last year. He's all conference. I don't know how you go away from that.
I don't think you can.
Yeah. But he's a really good scorer inside. With that 16 IS. Fontana is kind of, I would assume, like a sidekick kind of guy. Power forward. Yeah, pretty solid. And a good defender, I think, and rebounder. I mean, Cornette's is too, I guess. Yeah. Dion Ware gets no respect, I'm telling you. But yeah, I mean, this team looks good. I think they're well deserving of that top ranking in D2.
Yeah, I mean, 5 players over 150 TPI or SI, I should say, over 160 SI. That's pretty damn good for D2.
Yeah, I'm just worried about the low IQ, basically. That would be, I mean, defensively, they have solid ratings everywhere. I guess
so.
Rich.
It sort of depends. It sort of depends on how they're going to try like how they're going to play, right? Because you can really
Mhm.
mask bad IQs by, well, maybe you can't mask it, but you can try and counter it by, playing a lot of press and really fast pace. And if your team turns the ball over 14 times a game, maybe you turn the other team over 22 times a game.
Good point. Yeah.
And this is the type of roster with the high enough TPI that you can overcome your errors by causing lesser teams to make more errors, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I anticipate that's probably how he'll play. I'm not entirely sure. I don't remember from last season sort of what his style was.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but what I can see is like the staminas are really good.
Yeah.
For this team. The speeds aren't like amazing though, so I'm wondering if the press will be as effective.
Right.
But Joyce looks like a good press defender, at least ball pressure point guard, with that perimeter defense, the speed, the stamina. So yeah.
So it doesn't look like he presses a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Just quickly looking at a couple games from last season, it's usually not more than like 6%. So I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, people can change their styles though, I suppose. But I agree. A lot of people, it seems like, don't. So, all right.
I certainly don't.
All right, let's look at Baylor real quick. Baylor Bears.
Baylor Bears.
Oh wow, they have a 172. Oh my gosh, look at this team.
Yeah.
This
and
team
he's a junior.
This team is tied. I don't know the math, but this team is tied with UC San Diego.
They're both sitting on 150.4.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, because you said the top 5 for San Diego are 150 plus, so I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I would guess Worrell and then Mathis are the starters in the big spots.
Milton Mathis.
Yeah, probably.
What
Milton
a name.
Mathis, yeah.
Probably. He's got some good size. He has a shooting guard that's 6'9". Drew Stroud.
Oh, he is shooting. Oh. I don't know.
I mean, it says shooting guard is his main position. I don't imagine.
He hardly plays.
Yeah, he does hardly play.
Or he has hardly played. We'll see. I mean, maybe this is his time.
I just think it's funny that he's labeled a shooting guard and he's like 6'9".
I mean, we've seen some funky cases, definitely.
Yeah.
When I'm looking at a team, I always look at like who's their center basically in power forward, and then who's their point guard. And obviously I look at like the top TPIs, and Henderson probably is a small forward, I guess. It looks like Amato. Is he the point guard? I mean, with a 7 handling.
I know. So he's got the high IQ, but he's got the bad handling stat.
Yeah.
Does he go to Harmon? No, because Harmon's a 6 in passing.
Does he go to Giordano?
I
might go to Giordano.
That's a 25-point SI decrease, though.
That's a big difference, yeah. I mean, Amato is like much better, like scoring wise.
Amato seems like a shooting guard.
Yeah, maybe that's how they run it. Yeah, and Harmon comes off the bench, so Harmon and Campbell might come off the bench then, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. This is like one of those. I mean, he could always. Well, it's too late. They're seniors. I was gonna say he could redshirt the 2, but they're seniors.
Yeah.
I mean, he has too much depth at wing positions, which is usually not a problem, but in this case, he's gonna have to figure out the best way to split those minutes. I mean, yeah, it's a tough situation. It's a tough call because, like, when we're talking about point guard, there's no best fit.
Right.
Like, you don't want your point guard to have a 7 in ball handling. That's not good.
Right.
But you also don't want him to have a 6 in passing. So, like, there's some sort of trade-off that he has to have here.
Yeah. I mean, maybe Henderson becomes the point guard, I guess, but I mean, there's some weaknesses here. So yeah, it'll be interesting.
It's a really weak perimeter defense. Yeah, I don't know.
Right. Okay, so that's Baylor. And we were on first, so we'll get rid of that. All right, let's go to D3 then. We got some.
The goods. The D3 goods.
Yeah. So obviously there's a lot more conferences. What I did was I did the same thing as Rob here with taking the top team, but then if there was like a really strong conference, I kept some teams or like notable because like Ohio State at 80 isn't like necessarily strong, but I think it's funny that it's Ohio State.
Is that why you kept it?
Yeah, pretty much. I kept Caltech here, even though they're 431. Highlight like kind of the recruiting because the recruiting's been pretty good. They're just rebuilding, and so I wanted to highlight that though. Go check out their recruiting. This is
the big boy right here.
VCU. I want to highlight because they have a new president who like just recently transferred over.
VCU has a new president?
Yeah. And they I think it's like Racer.
It's Racer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was formerly at Trine, and now he's at
oh, okay.
VCU. I mean, he did a little press release here for them.
Interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, shout out to them. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough year, a rebuilding year.
But we like when people embrace the difficult.
Yeah, for sure. I think the thing that stands out here is that there's a conference here with 1, 2, and 7 in TPI rankings.
Oof.
I mean, and then you can see fourth, like you kept fourth here. And like, I think normally we'd call that a big drop off, just like if we look at raw number of spots, but 39th is still in the tournament picture, well within the tournament picture. And like, you would think you would promote them, but now with 1, 2, and 7, I mean, sheesh.
And it's always so much different in D3 because there are so many damn conferences. So like having 3 teams in the top 10 when there's 32 D3 conferences, I think.
Yeah.
So 3 teams in the top 10 is a very strong indicator of how good those teams are, how good that conference will be at the top.
Yeah. Definitely. And then there's kind of like this glut of teams here. I mean, so let's see, what conferences really stand out though? I mean, you can see there's a ton at 119, right? And you talked about 119 being kind of weak for D2.
Right.
But it looks like one of the stronger ones here. I mean, there's a 121 now.
There's a 122 with Harding, VI 22.
Yeah. That looks like the strongest one there.
Yeah, sure. I think so.
It was interesting though, because Harding is like 16, but I don't think then their next ones are in the top. I don't think second is in the top 100. Pretty sure.
D3 gets wacky, man.
It's true. Oh my God, this is so scary. Never mind. I'm completely done. 41, 52, 67.
I was going to say, there's something a little weird about it. It would have to be like 100 to 111 or something, like straight to have that high of an average TPI. And then,
that's fair. Yeah. Listen, math is hard, guys. Okay.
D3 math is hard.
Yeah. And Suwani here, being fourth, leading a conference, that looks pretty good. Just right outside that 140 mark that I think we typically look for in D3. But yeah,
I mean, it's hard to talk about D3 because number one, like we said, there's a shit ton of conferences, but also like if we take the average TPI of the top conference, 122.2, and the average TPI of the lowest conference it's 113 right here. It's only like 8 points difference. It's not, I mean, that's with D3, that's not as significant of a difference as I expected, I think. So,
well, the thing that I noticed when I was looking at these D3 teams, what I did before in prep was like I looked at like the top 15 or so teams and their rosters, and I mean, just being out of D3 for a few seasons now, I just was like looking at these teams, these rosters, and I was like so much more critical than I probably should have been. I was like, oh, this team isn't that good because they're too short, or their ratings, not enough interior defense, or not enough speed. When it's probably like these teams, and these were the top 15 teams,
Yeah.
But I think, they're probably solid for D3. So it's just harder for me to judge it now, just being more detached from it for a while. So I don't know, I thought that was interesting. It's hard for me to highlight a good team because I've looked at it through that view now, but there definitely are some good teams. It's just it's hard to put into context in my brain so quickly.
Yeah, no, I completely understand what you're saying, because it's been a while now that we've been removed from D3. And we're so used to scouting D2s and looking at D1 stuff. And so it's like most of those teams you're going to look at and be like, wow, there's a huge glaring weakness that wouldn't be present on a top D2 team or on a D1 team. But that's sort of the nature of the beast, right? But then, like, when we talk about the top two teams in terms of TPI and D3, it's SIU, Edwardsville, and then Cal State San Marcos.
Mm-hmm.
Edwardsville is like 145.4 TPI. That's pretty good. Like,
yeah,
that's pretty damn good. That would put them somewhere like decently ranked in D2, I believe.
Yeah, probably. Let's see.
145.4. Where would that put them in D2? Yeah, I mean, that would put them like top 10.
Yeah, right. Wow. Ooh.
Yeah. So like, and of course, those are hit or miss, right? So like, you have two really good teams in D3, and then there's a lot of like quick drop off. But, or well, actually, there's three really good teams in D3.
Yeah, because like third is like 142.
Yeah, Christian Brothers.
Yeah.
So there's three really good teams that have the talent to be a really good D2 team.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, just off of those numbers, I mean, there's a lot to go into roster construction. We've talked about this a lot. How you run your team, tactics,
right?
Where these ratings are. But yeah.
And so, like, if you dropped Edwardsville, right, with a 145 TPI into D1, they're sitting top 50 in terms of TPI. Now, wow. You can get away with having roster holes when it comes to size or not enough perimeter defense or whatever it is in D3 because you're just overpowering teams. Mm-hmm. And to a certain extent, you can also do that in D2. But pure TPI wise, if we drop that team in D1 and those glaring weaknesses are present, they're going to be taken advantage of and exploited, right?
For sure.
And so like you're not going to be able to hide those things as much. And so like with D1, we talk about TPI all the time, but then like you said, it's roster breakdown. It's how a team runs their team, their game planning, making up for certain things. Maybe your center's like 7 feet tall, but his interior defense is only like 8, but because he's 7 feet tall, like he compensates or something. Mm-hmm. Where like a lot of D3 teams don't have that sort of line of thinking.
Yeah. And I mean, the other way is kind of true. The flip side of that is true. If your center's like 6'7", they can survive if their interior defense and rebounding are like 16 plus each or something,
Yeah. And if they have some good strength to them and they're like sizey, like 230, 240 or something like that, you can compensate pretty well.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's in D1. Obviously in D2, 6'7" guy can survive with 10s, 11s in those, and, but I think it's just like, you can't, if you're in D3, you can't think that is going to survive later on, is what we're trying to say,
Yeah.
Just because it worked, for you before in D3 does not mean, oh, it'll be fine, later on when you advance, because you should advance, you will. So that's, I think, the lesson to learn there. Yeah.
I think, so I was thinking about this the other day now as we're moving into, D1 for my first time with my two teams. I know you've had Rochelle in D1 now for a few seasons, but I was thinking about like our career arc, because we started in D3 with all these teams, right? We made our way to D2. Yeah. We eventually promoted out of D2. Now we're in D1. And it's like, okay, the jump from D3 to D2 and having to recruit players for a system and all that stuff was more difficult, I think, than from D2 to D1. Because it feels like D1 is just a more competitive representation of D2 kind of thing, right? It's like the same, like you're going to have a lot of people that are going to game plan really well. They're going to recruit to their system. They're going to have good roster like breakdowns and stuff like that. And they're going to take advantage of their advantages against your roster. And then, so you have to really learn on the fly when it comes to that, versus when you're in D3, you jump to D2, you learn pretty harshly, mm-hmm. right? And then from D2 to D1, you already have all these principles set. So you're like, just learning how to adjust to the competition.
Yeah, you're right in a lot of what you're saying. I think it's been harder for me to recruit in D1 because I feel like there's more, my window of what I'm trying to look for is more narrow. Because I know I have to try to, look for these certain attributes. And I mean, I don't have to, but it's just like what I look for, what I have to prioritize.
Right.
And so that's made it more difficult, you know, and then I'm going after higher caliber guys, which I may not win. So then I have to go dumpster diving later on when it's more of an emergency, versus like if you look for those hidden gems right away, you know, you could probably get the best of the hidden gems versus finding some rougher gems, I guess. You know, I think I've experienced that with New Rochelle, especially. Like I had my rise, and now it's like my last recruiting class was like not good, you know. So in even then, like my current senior recruiting class, like, yeah, I'm on a 4-star you know, guide, but I'm on like a 10-star big or 10 pot big man 2-star who's like kind of okay.
Yeah.
But you know, like the quality, I don't know if it's there, you know. So it'll be interesting to see. It gets harder in some ways, and then it gets even harder in other ways.
It just gets harder, bottom line.
Yeah. But that's the fun of it, you know. Like I think that's the big challenge. You know, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to being in D1 with both my teams. You're in D1 with both your teams. It'll be interesting.
I think what's interesting for me, just for my own personal reflection, is that both of my teams in D1 are at completely different stages of things, right? Like Santa Clara needs to fight to stay alive, and then Oswego is good enough that I think I could challenge for promotion, like back-to-back promotions.
Yeah.
So it's going to be an interesting dichotomy in terms of like stress levels, you know.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. That's a good point. Oh man, that'll be I don't envy you there.
So, well, we'll see how it goes though.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we'll try to record a midweek episode. Yet to be determined on what it will be about, but look forward to that.
We'll find something interesting to talk about.
Of course. It's Hardwood. Everything's interesting.
Exactly. If anybody has anything they want us to talk about, please feel free to offer up.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. I'll talk to you next time.
Cool. Total Podcast Idiots +1 Total Podcast Champion signing off. Deuces.
Peace.